"Oh my God!" An administrative NCO snapped. "Take off that PT shirt right now." Marcus Reed, a former Navy SEAL who'd stared death in the face in Afghanistan, felt cold beads of sweat trickle down his back. He held his breath as the fabric slipped away, revealing the numbers 0413 and the Black Wolf emblem, blood and fire etched into flesh from 52 brutal minutes of fighting off every enemy. In that instant, his entire past surged back, forcing a choice: remain silent or blaze the truth into the light. Miss this, and you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Good Lord. Marcus Reed first emerged beneath the hushed dawn of Naval Base Coronado when the morning sun's rays still lay faint as remnants of a dream barely passed. His battered Ford Ranger lurched through the security gate, its engine rumbling softly like a whisper of an indelible past. No greeting was needed. Marcus simply placed a hand on the steering wheel, his gaze fixed on the silver seal badge, dulled and worn by time. Beneath the early light's cool haze, he carried a story never told, of a blood-soaked team, of comrades fallen, and of a mission erased from every official record. Around him, the world fell into uncanny stillness. Far off, helicopter blades sliced the air like echoes of memory. Gravel shifted beneath the tires with a gentle crunch, reminding him of Kandahar's barren dunes, where gunfire once roared and cries for help shattered the night. He had left the battlefield 2 years before, yet the war had never left him. Every step on the sun-baked concrete echoed with the pounding of hearts, the desperate beat of brothers waiting for his aid amid a hail of bullets. At the checkpoint window, Sergeant Diaz squinted through his lenses, curiosity flickering across his face at the sight of a former SEAL clad in a faded PT uniform, no rank insignia, no standard-issue patches ill-fitting for any active duty member. His words slipped out like an unspoken order: "Take off the uniform, or turn your rig around." Though the command was delivered coldly, Marcus recognized behind it an unspoken border between welcome and erased in military life. Without protest, Marcus cut the engine and stepped out with measured poise. He smoothed the edge of his worn PT shirt, feeling each thread fray under his fingertips. All eyes in the vicinity tracked his tall frame, their stares tinged with bewilderment. They wondered, why would a man who faced death choose to break dress code? The secret lay between his shoulder blades underneath that threadbare fabric. The tattoo 0413 and a Black Wolf emblem hid in plain sight. He did not conceal it, he simply never flaunted it like a soul's scar readable only to those who shared the same prison of fire. Bending to fold his old shirt, the SEAL badge glittered in the new day light. In that brief heartbeat the world hushed, the distant drone of fans, the screech of brakes, the rustle of fresh uniforms. Sergeant Diaz looked up, jaw slack, as he recognized the sequence he'd only ever seen in classified reports. 0413, the Night Wolf unit that had held a NATO convoy hostage for 52 relentless minutes. All rules and regulations shrank away at that revelation, igniting a blaze in the darkness. Marcus did not look back at the order to strip. He rose slowly, retrieved his replacement PT shirt faded slate gray, and met Diaz's eyes. "I'm here to train." His voice was low, but it overpowered the clattering steel and cement echoes. A dense silence enveloped them, broken only by the pounding of Diaz's heart. Someone had to answer for this, but the base's security hallway trembled not a single inch. Moments later, the checkpoint phone chimed softly. Diaz snapped it up, his stern expression shifting to fluster. "Sir, there's a man here marked 0413, he whispered. In an instant, an order crackled back. Permit Reed to wear any authorized uniform and admit him. Each word dropped like a boulder in the room. Marcus offered a brief salute, smoothed his shirt, and passed through the steel doors with quiet conviction. As the doors clanged shut behind him, the alarm announcing Hell Week training echoed throughout the base. Recruits paused in mid-stride, turning to gaze through reinforced glass. They did not yet grasp the story, but all sensed that here stood a man who could not simply be sidelined. The 0413 tattoo had become a reminder that heroism isn't always recorded in books, and that today's decisions could either illuminate or extinguish a legend. 3 weeks ago, when word of the new Hell Week trials rippled through Naval Base Coronado, dozens of eager young faces lit up at the chance to prove themselves. Yet Captain Lawson knew that, among them all, only Marcus Reed possessed the battle-honed experience and iron will to transform Hell Week into a lesson in survival. It was not past glory that mattered, but a sense of duty to the next generation of SEALs. He needed a living example, someone who had endured the harshest crucible. Before Marcus could speak, he placed both hands solemnly on the worn wooden desk. The scent of old timber, mixed with the faint tang of disinfectant in the captain's office, washed over him like a callback to his first days of training. He stood rock steady, eyes unwavering as they met Lawson's. In his mind's eye, the jagged cliffs of Blackhorn Pass reappeared, splintered rock, comrades' cries, and the invisible hail of bullets when SEAL Team 0413 held the line for 52 brutal minutes to buy time for a NATO convoy. That moment had been buried in the past, erased from all official records, its erasure weighing on him like an invisible sentence. Marcus said nothing until the captain tapped the desk edge once. "Do you understand why I've summoned you?" Lawson asked softly, each word resonating like a hammer blow. Marcus nodded slowly, and in a steady voice replied, "I want you to lead the initial Hell Week for the SEAL pilot program." A detailed plan unfurled before him: mud runs, nighttime ocean swims, electrified obstacle courses, and, finally, a 72-hour isolation exercise. His heart tightened not from dread of the brutality, but because he knew few grasped the price these candidates would pay. He himself had traded brothers' lives, sweat for blood, and countless sleepless nights. Once a protector of his team, he was now poised to become their sternest instructor. Lawson raised an eyebrow. "We need a steel gaze and a steel heart." Marcus silently brushed the SEAL badge on his chest and met the captain's gaze. "I accept," he conveyed with his eyes alone. Not to prove himself, but to prepare the dozens of lives awaiting their harshest trial yet. With that verbal contract sealed, sunlight slanted through the window, painting the room in half-light. Marcus closed the planning binder and strode into the hallway with resolute steps. Captain Lawson's words echoed in his mind. Hell Week is no place for the faint of heart. Marcus was no coward, but he carried the knowledge that every decision today could either crush or kindle those who followed. Exiting the office, he paused before the training schedule board, where each trial phase and its countdown were charted in stark detail. He closed his eyes for a moment, picturing the fallen faces of his former comrades, recalling their last smiles around a dying campfire. A sea breeze rippled the posters on the wall, their rustling like a whisper. "What will you guide them through?" He pressed the alarm button for the training grounds. Its resonant ring sounded like a drumbeat of command, summoning the new recruits. Hell Week had begun. They did not yet know the silent commander behind the steel door, nor that Marcus Reed, survivor of the most harrowing 52 minutes in Kandahar's history, stood beyond the dim lights, watching their every step. The command from Diaz ripped through the morning air like a roar of fury. "Take off that PT shirt immediately." Without a second's hesitation, Marcus Reed opened his truck door and methodically lowered the coarse canvas bag. This was not the first time a stranger demanded he prove his identity by clothing, yet the tension now felt heavier than any physical trial. Dawn light slanted through the checkpoint window, illuminating the worn threads of the slate-gray PT shirt Marcus held. Before him, Sergeant Diaz stood arms crossed, his voice steely. "AR 670-1 is clear. Anyone not on active duty may not wear PT gear." All eyes turned, fixated. Marcus remained unhurried. He drew a steady breath, recalling life-or-death moments in Kandahar, steadying himself against the unspoken judgment. Inhaling deeply, he grasped the hem and slowly peeled the shirt away. Layers of fabric slipped down to expose taut, hardened muscles. His stance never wavered, hands moving with the precision of years spent on a combat vessel's deck. As the old shirt fell to his hips, Marcus bent to fold it, and in that fleeting motion, the new fabric slid upward, revealing the tattoo between his shoulder blades. His body jolted as bronzed skin emerged, etched sharply with O413, and a black wolf, wings unfurled, a mark forged in blood and flame as a pact sworn in battle. Time stretched beyond a single heartbeat. All sounds faded, the screech of brakes, a sharp exhale, the distant hum of rooftop fans. Sergeant Diaz's jaw dropped, eyes wide, as if he'd witnessed the impossible. That tattoo was no mere ornament. It was a timestamp, carving a secret chapter into SEAL history. Marcus straightened, gaze fixed on Diaz, offering no explanation. A morning breeze swept his hair, carrying whispers of sea salt and desert sands. Curious, astonished stares pressed into the narrow confines of the checkpoint, and everyone realized this moment would be unforgettable. Seconds later, the click of a radio on Marcus's arm sounded softly. Diaz took a step back, duty demanding obedience, yet his heart still pounding. Clutching the handset, he stammered, "Sir, this is code O413. From the other end, a rich voice replied, "Authorize Reed in any approved PT uniform." He has the clearance. Headquarters intervened instantly, as if O413 itself unlocked every barred door. Marcus tugged the new shirt down over his shoulders, concealing the tattoo once more, and turned to enter the base. His broad back cut a straight line through the checkpoint, each stride embedding a faded legacy into concrete. The Hell Week alarm chimed across the grounds, summoning the waiting recruits. They did not yet know their silent champion, but they sensed a new power had entered the air. Marcus felt it too. From this moment on, his role transcended that of trainer. He would stand as a living testament for the next generation, that sometimes renown isn't penned on certificates, but inked into flesh. A slight nod from him, and the recruits behind him found their faith renewed. Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are still to come. And please drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping, so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. Diaz's command tore through the dawn air like a living storm. Push forward. Marcus Reed's gaze swept the dozens of tense faces, jaws clenched so tightly the teeth nearly cracked. Before them lay a quagmire of mud pits, ice-slicked planks, and tangled ropes that seemed poised to rip flesh from bone. None knew that, among those stumbling backs, some would breathe life only because Marcus lent them his own. The recruits plunged in with eager fear coursing through their veins. Marcus's call, "Push," rang out, warm yet commanding, driving them through each muscle-aching grapple and frost-bitten fingertips tremble. The ground beneath them offered no purchase, each step a test of will, yet his eyes never wavered from any single one. In a heartbeat, he paused at a young soldier waist-deep in the muck, the mire swallowing him inch by inch. No resounding shout interrupted the chaos. Marcus simply knelt, placed a steady hand on the man's shoulder, and, with all his strength, hauled him toward solid ground. Have you ever witnessed compassion more powerful than gunfire? Next came the smoke tunnel, where choking diesel fumes blurred all sight. Dizzy and disoriented, they flailed for the exit, but Marcus stood immovable as bedrock. He stepped back, swept a hand through the haze to clear a path, then tapped an old compass against his sleeve to point the way. Nobody questioned him, for in that instant it was clear. This instructor taught not just survival skills, but unwavering spirit. When night sea swim arrived, waves crashed relentlessly, cold gnawing at their bones. Marcus swam alongside them, close enough to rescue, and at times he seized a flimsy arm and towed the swimmer toward the waiting craft. When salt stung his back, he merely smiled and murmured, "Holding up okay?" No grand speech needed. His presence was their anchor amid the swirling tide. Can steadfast resolve reach a faltering heart? The ultimate ordeal awaited in the 72-hour isolation room. No light, no clock, only the soft rhythm of breathing apparatus and pounding hearts. In the darkness, Marcus sat beside a trembling recruit, offering no hollow platitudes, only a gentle fingertip on the shoulder, enough to coax a determined smile. When the lights burst on, the young man straightened, eyes bright with new resolve. Outside, sea breezes rustled the isolation flyers, whispering that only those who refuse to yield deserve to survive. Marcus emerged, footprints pressed into damp sand, nails bent from pressure but eyes alight with purpose. He neither crowed nor called attention to himself. His heart remembered every grateful glance from those he aided. The final gauntlet was an endless mud run and a 30-foot rope climb. Clinging mud weighed them down with every step. When one recruit collapsed in exhaustion, Marcus halted once more. He knelt, parted the mud on the man's pant leg, brushing it away so bare feet could grip the earth. Then, he supported him for a few strides before turning back to lead the rest. No one was left behind. Marcus had forged Hell Week into a journey of solidarity. Would you dare test your limits, knowing a hand will always reach back to pull you forward? When the final whistle sounded, red-brown mud caked every uniform, eyes shone with exhaustion and pride. Marcus stood amid the weary ranks. No accolades needed. Each soldier knew that, because of him, they had not only endured physical pain, but discovered the true strength of comradeship and boundless compassion. Not 10 strides from the checkpoint, Marcus Reed sensed another crisis unfolding. Along the rookie course, a young trainee stumbled, clutching his thigh as though his heart might burst, before collapsing to the ground with terror in his upturned eyes. The alarm siren rattled each ragged breath, yet Marcus did not pause for orders. He vaulted the barrier, plunged into ankle-deep sludge, and knelt beside the stricken soldier. Forged by 2 years of combat and dozens of battlefield rescues, Marcus swiftly took the man's pulse and checked his breathing. Without a word of flourish, he pressed a water bottle to the trainee's lips, coaxing small, urgent sips, then placed a heated gel pack from his compact medical kit into the soldier's hand. Sweat and muck soaked Marcus's uniform, but he remained unshaken, chest rising and falling with controlled intensity before hoisting the wounded man upright with one steel-strong arm. The recruit gazed at Marcus as though he were a father figure or big brother amid the chaos. His eyes softened with fresh resolve, transcending lingering exhaustion. Marcus offered a slight nod, spoke no further, and simply pointed to the course ahead, his silent cue to press on. In that instant, he was no dry-spoken instructor or inscrutable legend, but a beacon of hope in the darkness. Have you ever witnessed a quiet act of sacrifice strong enough to alter a destiny? Next, the unit confronted the chemical haze obstacle, where thick white vapor shrouded every path. A second trainee slipped on concealed tacks, drawing a shallow, bleeding scratch that sent him into panic. Marcus sprang forward unhesitatingly. He placed a firm hand over the wound, wrapped it in gauze, then retrieved a quick-spray antibiotic from his pocket. Smoke churned around them, but his calm example gradually hushed the storm. In the military, not a single drop of blood may be wasted. Marcus understood that with the same clarity as any classified after-action report. Despite blaring alarms and shouted commands, he rose and returned to formation, leaving behind the image of a hero without fanfare. Applause erupted, yet he merely nodded and kept walking. Moments later, the civilian training grounds beyond the base rang with desperate cries. A jeep had flipped on the gravel road, choked in a haze of smoke. Bystanders rushed in, powerless against the blaze. Marcus, en route to the barracks, did not hesitate. He darted into the scene, grabbed a soiled tarp to smother flames near the driver's seat, then hauled a trapped man from the wreck. His skin may be weathered by sun, but that faded PT shirt still carried a blazing resolve. In the sudden calm after the fire died down, onlookers gathered, their awed exclamations rising in unison. Marcus laid the survivor gently on the ground, checked his pulse, then turned and walked away, leaving behind chaos and profound gratitude. Nobody asked his name. Everyone understood that a lifesaver needs no gleaming insignia to be recognized. Marcus Reed stood upright along the starting line, his tall silhouette etched against the rosy sand of the late afternoon. Before him, the novice ranks waited tensely for the signal, their hearts pounding like marching drums. For a single, suspended second, Colonel Ford, his dress uniform gleaming, raised his hand in salute at the eagle's eye position, where the seal insignia commanded respect. The sole command rang out, "Mr. Reed, lead them off." Dozens of hearts paused, then exploded with resolve as they rose to follow Marcus's first step. That step drove deep into the sand with a resonant thump, like the beat of a starter's drum. The young soldiers wobbled, toes slipping, but swiftly refocused, scrabbling to keep pace. Marcus did not glance back. His gaze stayed fixed ahead, each ray of the dying sun illuminating the faint 0413 on his fresh PT shirt, not a hidden mark now, but a beacon of courage lighting their way. Each stride up the dune lofted grains of sand into the air, revealing the steepness of the challenge. Sand sifted into boots, slashing at calves, yet Marcus maintained his steady pace without complaint. They understood that to falter now would punish their pride more severely than any exercise. He guided them over the crest, sweat and dust intermingling like a fine mist upon his brow. As the sun sank lower and the sea breeze grew cool, Marcus lowered a hand in silence before the second hill, a signal for stillness. Breaths synchronized in the hush. It was no show of strength, but the teacher's whispered reminder, "You are not alone." One recruit fixed his eyes on 0413, as though finding new purpose. They surged down the far side, speed building in a flight from constraint. Marcus led them across the finish line, his footprints pressed firm, imparting a final lesson. 9 parts of success lie in rising after a fall. The recruits raced toward him like streaks of flame, mud flying, yet their eyes glowed not with fear, but burgeoning faith. Headlights from the training truck swept the course, casting the 0413 mark in a trembling halo. Marcus drew a measured breath, sweat dark under his collar, yet showed no fatigue. He stood among them, head nodding gently, his expression one of quiet fulfillment. This was no personal triumph, but a shared victory, each footstep, each breath, each drop of sweat united in rhythm. No cheers rose, no fanfare sounded, only understanding glances exchanged among recruits. They had witnessed their instructor not only lead, but bear their burdens, walk through their pain. Here, 0413, no longer separated past and present, but merged into their collective run, a testament to one for all for one. When the final whistle echoed, the sand settled beneath weary feet. Marcus left the line of flags fluttering in the wind. A breathless recruit stumbled forward, hand on his shoulder, and whispered, "Sir, what does 0413 mean?" Marcus turned, offering a faint smile amid the evening breeze, his eyes alight with steadfast warmth. "It's where we learned to stand firm when everyone else fell." And you, my dear audience, brace yourselves for the next twist in this jaw-dropping story. So, before you get too cozy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you're truly loving what I'm doing here. And drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a thrill to see who's joining us from all corners of the globe.